Hi there, this is Jim McFadden from the Vortex Centre for Wellbeing. I hope you're well. So this one is probably the first in a series of short videos I'm going to do to help with specifics. I'm going to call this series Light L-I-G-H-T Bites, and this first one is all about overcoming anxiety. Now, everything that I teach and everything that I share within this series is from my own personal experience. Anyone who knows my story knows that I've been working on this holistic way, been on this path of holistic health and well-being for the last almost 30 years now. So everything that I teach, everything that I share comes from the practices, the tools, the techniques that I use on myself, and also what I share every single day, both to the public and also to my community as well. So it comes on the back of the last probably 2 or 3 days where I've had really kind of high levels of anxiety myself, and today's the first day that I've really kind of felt almost back to normal again, and experiencing the relief this morning, and feeling better again and getting back to well-being. I thought it was an ideal opportunity while it's still fresh in my mind to share the stuff that I've been doing that's been helping me over these last few days. It's very easy when you're feeling good, which I do most of the time, but it's very easy, to forget and to, realise that there's so many people just now in this world suffering from anxiety, and obviously there are different ways, very many different approaches to tackle it. Most of them, again in my experience, don't really work, but this process I'm going to take you through today, once I share a wee bit of the information and a wee bit of the kind of educational side of it, then I'm going to take you through the process, and you will feel relief inside. Inside the first 2 or 3 minutes, you'll start to feel the relief, and you'll start to get back to that place where we'd all like to be. So the body gets out of balance, and the body gets out of whack, and the intention is always to get back to homeostasis. The intention is always to get back to well-being, and feeling the best that you can at all times. Certainly for me, that's what I do with this work. And stress, tension, inflammation, all the stuff that goes together to bring in the anxiety in this day and age, in these times, then where do you want to start and where do you finish? There are so many different areas that the anxiety is manifesting from, but really specifically, once we start to identify the stress, and once you start to have a good look at yourself, again, everybody's different, but once you start to look at yourself and you start to identify, where these stressors are coming in and what's actually causing it, then at that point, then you'll have the choice, as I call it, the ability to do something about it. Once you've got the awareness to see many times what you're doing to yourself, and in fact that you are creating it. I know that's kind of difficult for most people to hear, but most of it is like self-creation. You're actually doing it to yourself, and obviously nobody would really do that with intention. So it's like an unconscious process that happens most of the time, and once you've got the awareness, then you can do something about it. So most of the time it comes from overthinking. That's where it's generated. I heard a great term this morning which I hadn't heard before. It came from one of my teachers, a man that I studied with and trained under and qualified under, who I believe he's the forefront, and he's the man in terms of breathwork in the world just now. Patrick McKeown from the Oxygen Advantage and the Buteco system. He called it brain cell excitability, which is interesting. The last few nights when I've been up during the night, it was 2 o'clock this morning again, woke up, with really, I wouldn't say crippling anxiety, but certainly very disempowering in terms of, the stress I was experiencing in my body, obviously the chemistry being way out of whack, the unease and the dis-ease that I felt within my body, and it made almost anything very, very difficult over the last few days. And he's right what he says, that excitability in the head is something that I am absolutely guilty of. I think we all are. It's something I've kind of battled against my whole life. And overthinking and those thoughts that you're having, the questions, trying to find the solutions, going over your life, going over the stuff that's going on in your life. Most of the time, where people spend their time is stuff that doesn't make us feel good. So when you're starting to worry about things, you're in that state of, hoping things are going to get better, or worrying about things are going to go wrong, or things are going to get worse. Then obviously when you're having those thoughts within your head, then there's a chemistry release within the body. So the brain You create the chemistry within the brain, you create the signals within the brain, and the brain signals to the rest of the body to release whatever is required to deal with whatever it is that's a perceived threat or the challenges that you're facing. So overthinking, especially during the night, I think is a big one. Certainly for me, my entire life. In fact, the reason that I achieved, so much in terms of the spiritual practices was because I was up during the night. I was up with stress during the night. I didn't know this at the time, and I certainly didn't have any of these techniques at the time. I was just basically waking up after 3-4 hours sleep every single night for probably the first decade of this journey. It was a healing phase for me, but a lot of that time was spent in the wrong direction in terms of thinking about the wrong things. So stress is released, the chemistry gets out of whack, the body gets out of balance. When you're thinking about these, these negative experiences or these negative, possibilities that can come into your life, then the body is then preparing itself. It's getting ready, to deal with whatever it is the perceived threat is. And a lot of that time, that stress is obviously very negative, and very, very quickly, you can get to that place where it becomes like overwhelming, and it reaches a place where the anxiety will be made very, very. It becomes very, very real in terms of being in your body, and then it starts to manifest in different parts of your body. For me, the last couple of days, it's been very much in my chest, very much in my stomach. I've just a real feeling of disempowerment and overwhelmment, I suppose, is the best way to explain it. Certainly not in the mood for doing anything, really anything within the world. You get to a place where you're completely almost paralysed, and then at that point, what do you do? And this is where for me it was interesting, because I have experienced anxiety many, many times over this journey, and even previously, the previous to the 30 years of the time I've been doing this work, but the last few days it was a real kind of wake-up call, and remembering what a lot of people are going through, and even people that are really, really close to me. I see it regular, even within one or two close friends and one family member who suffers really quite badly from anxiety for one reason or another. So the stressors are there, and they come from so many different, parts just now within the world. The overthinking is, I suppose, I would say is that's the biggest one. What you're doing to yourself in terms of where you're spending your time, what you're thinking about, whether it makes you feel good or whether it makes you feel bad. And then you need to look at, the rest of the stressors, in this world just now. And there's almost too many to list. You've got toxic food, processed food, the stuff that they call food, what that does to your body, what the body's response is to that. And you've also got the toxic drinks, so things like caffeine, and the energy drinks. If you are experiencing anxiety, that would be one of the first things I would consider taking away. And then you get the environment and your surroundings, whatever you're living in, what's going on about you. Very, very difficult not to take that on. I've just spent, again, the last week, my father was in hospital, and even get into that environment, with everything that's going on in there and everything that environment means to me because of my own personal experiences. Even that, can be very much overwhelming. So the environment itself, the surroundings, things like Wi-Fi, very important, to be aware of, what you're allowing to happen to you. Obviously there's the Wi-Fi you can't really do anything about, but then you've got the stuff you can, things like your phone, things like the router within your home. Great idea to turn it off at night time. I can tell when one of my kids hasn't switched the router off at night time simply by how I sleep. It's right underneath us, and I can tell if my son or my daughter has left it on at night time by the way that I've slept at night time. That's how sensitive I'm just now to, or I have been over the years, to well-being and trying to make myself, get to that place where I feel the best that I can. So being aware of that, being aware of the impact, the stuff that you can't see. And then, when you look at the phones and social media, when you're on that and you're scrolling through that, you need to be aware of every single thing that you see, every single image that you see. You're creating like an unconscious response. So if you're watching things like the news, and then you're watching, what they're reporting on the news, and just now, getting into the summer of 2026, with the amount of fear and the amount of uncertainty, the stuff they're reporting, whether it's the Middle East or they're talking about the possibility of world wars or, just really kind of crazy times we're living in. So the problem with that is when you see that, The brain and the unconscious mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what isn't. So the minute you see somebody talking about the possibility of like some cataclysmic event that may end your life, then your body automatically is generating the stress to deal with that. It's preparing you for the fight, even though that fight might never happen. So you need to be very, very aware of what you're allowing in. Social media is probably the biggest thing, and also the stuff you're watching, the good stuff. If you're watching somebody and you're looking at them and thinking, I wish that was me, and it creates a feeling of lack, or you're looking at them and you're resenting them because of the lifestyle that they're selling, and then again be aware of how it's making you feel, and that'll be again the unconscious response of the chemistry that's getting dumped into your body. So once you understand it and you really see through awareness, the power of awareness, to see what you're allowing to happen to yourself, many times what you're doing to yourself, then at that point you've got choices to make, and this is all about the choice. For me, the last few days has been very much a case of looking at the things that's not working for me, looking at the stuff that's bringing me stress, the stuff that's creating, for me it's my head, that's where it comes from, I get way out of whack, way out of balance, spending time in my head thinking about the wrong things, and it's not really that bad, but it's bad enough to kind of put me out of whack. So once you see what you're actually doing to yourself, then you have the ability through the choice to do something about it through the power of intention. I intend to make this better. I do not want to live like this. I certainly do not want to spend another moment in my life in anxiety. And the amount of tools and techniques that I've got and I've picked up over the last 30 years, if it can happen to me, then it can happen to anybody. So the intention is to feel good, the intention is to get back into balance, the intention is to get your body back into homeostasis, back to the way that it's meant to be. So taking away all the stressors, or at least doing the best that you can. And then the process is very, very simple. Now, if anybody ever has, they come across my work, whether it's in person or whether it's online, then the first thing I do with anybody is teach them to breathe the correct form and function, how we're supposed to breathe as human beings. And there's a very, very specific way that you're supposed to breathe. Again, I learned this from quite a few different teachers. The main teacher for me was Patrick McKeown. I studied with Patrick probably 5-6 years ago now. 5-6 years maybe. I trained in the Oxygen Advantage. I am an advanced instructor with the Oxygen Advantage. A lot of the Oxygen Advantage is based on the tools and techniques that Patrick learned training under Dr. Buteyko with the Buteyko method, which is breathwork that's specific for health and well-being. Getting people back to the way that they're supposed to be, just through the power of the breath. Being aware of what you're doing to yourself with your breathing, learning how to breathe with the correct form and function. And every single bit of this has got science behind it. That's what I love so much about Patrick. Way back before that, when I trained with Wim Hof, and he was teaching what I would now call as dysfunctional breathing. He was teaching breathwork to go and sit in ice baths and generate massive amounts of stress within the body, so you could then go and do these almost like superhuman feats. When I trained with Wim, I thought that was the answers. I thought that was the type of breathwork that everybody should do. And when I came back from my training back in 2017, I was taking everybody through the exact same type of breathwork just because of my own ignorance. I didn't know there was anything else out there. And when I came across Patrick a couple of years later, then I learned, the mistakes that I'd been making, the information that I'd been fed in terms of how we're supposed to be as human beings, and then the realisation of someone who's suffering. And I think this is really it became very apparent to me after COVID, whether it's because of the virus, whether it's because of vaccinations or medications, even just the stress that people are under during that time, the amount of people that went through loss or suffering. Then after that, that dysfunctional hyperventilation breathwork is way too much. And probably since 2017-18, I have not really been teaching at all, the really kind of the power breathing. The breathing in and breathing out very, very quickly, doing the big breath retentions, doing the hyperventilation and taking your breath in and squeezing the breath and generating more stress into your head, which will give you a reset, which will dump all sorts of chemistry into your body. It'll reset you in many, many different ways. But for something like anxiety and elevated levels of anxiety and things like leading into panic attacks, then that's the last thing that anybody wants to be doing is any kind of hyperventilation. So functional breathing is very, very simple. It happens in 3 different stages. So when you take your chemistry back into balance, when you take your breathing into the correct portions of your lungs, how you're supposed to breathe, and then the only thing you really need to do is to slow down. I'm not going to spend any time explaining that process today. Anybody who's interested in that, there are loads of videos online. I would go and look up Patrick McKeown personally. Anybody that's interested in the science, Patrick has got papers coming out his ears in terms of what backs this up and what they're doing within the studies within the laboratory environments where we're able to test and verify and all the good stuff that science needs to prove that it's actually working. For me, what I see every single day, the results I see every single day, then the process itself is very, very simple. So you don't actually need the science. Maybe some people do, to back it up or to verify it, but the process itself should be enough. So I'm going to take you through the process just now. This is something that you could do with headphones on. This is something that would be better, once you learn how to do it, if you're listening to relaxing music, and it leads into relaxation very, very quickly. And then for me, it's always into meditation. Once you're able to switch off the stress, once you're able to bring the brain and the body back into balance and back into coherence, once you get out of the head and get back into yourself, once you reconnect back in, then the intention for me always is to go from relaxation and then straight into meditation, so I can then start to recharge the batteries. So the functional breath and the way that I'm going to take you through this is dead simple. Sitting up nice and straight is the best way to do it. Headphones on to block out any external noise if that's required, I would recommend. And as I said, once you actually know how it goes together, then some sort of relaxing music in the background will definitely help. It's a great way of occupying the conscious mind, and then the words that are coming through will take you on a journey that enables you to switch off the stress, find the relief, and then get back to that place of well-being. So the first exercise I would do is called the Physiological Sigh. This is something I've been doing for the last couple of years now. I came across it quite late, and it's custom made. And if you look online, you'll see that's the fastest way to scientifically proven to de-escalate the nervous system and get the body from switched on fight and flight, and certainly move towards rest and digest, the parasympathetic side of the nervous system, which is rest and recovery, which takes the body back into balance, back into homeostasis, which is what we're looking for. So the physiological sigh is very, very simple. If you sit up nice and straight, I would put a pillow behind your back, so all your physiology, all your body, the skeleton, the lungs, the diaphragm is all in the correct position. Sit up nice and straight. And very, very simply, the first thing you want to do is take a big breath in through your nose. And there's two breaths within this. So you breathe in through your nose, and then you breathe in through your nose again. So you take it all the way into the top of your head, and then you breathe in again. So there's a slight pause in the middle, then you breathe in again. So it's a double breath. And then in this instance, and this is the only time I would really recommend this, you can breathe out through your mouth. The correct way to breathe with correct form and function is only nasal breathing. That's how we're supposed to breathe. But for this first exercise, if you are feeling anxious, then to breathe out through your mouth. And it's very important to make some noise, to sigh, to groan, to moan, to let it all go. When you sigh, when you groan, when you moan, even when you hum into the side of your neck, you feel it in the side of your neck. There's two nerves that run from the brain down through the side of your neck and down through all the vital organs, called the vagus nerve. And when you stimulate the vagus nerve, then it sends a direct signal to the body that it's time to go from fight and flight to rest and digest. So you're taking your body from sympathetic nervous system switched on, and you're sending a direct signal just by stimulating this nerve that it's time to switch off. This is why cold exposure is also really, really good. Cold exposure, like when I teach people to sit in ice baths, what you'll hear me say is get right up to your ears, and that's so the cold water can get right up and basically stimulate the vagus nerve. When you stimulate the vagus nerve, it sends a signal that tells the body to basically switch off. So I'm going to take you through it. We'll do this 2 or 3 times. Sitting up nice and straight. Breathe in through your nose. Breathe in through your nose again. And then breathe out through your mouth, and then just sigh, groan, moan, make some noise and let it go. Breathe in through the nose. Breathe in through the nose again. And then sigh, groan, drop the shoulders, moan, hum if you can, and let it go all the way out. Breathe in through the nose. Breathe in through the nose again, take it all the way up. When you reach the top, breathing out through the mouth, sigh, groan, moan, let it go, drop the shoulders, shake the hands off, let it all go all the way out. 2 more times. Breathe in through the nose. Breathe in through the nose again, take it all the way up to the top. And then breathing out through the mouth, sigh like you mean it, Groan, breathing out the stress, the tension, letting it all go all the way out, reaching the bottom. Final time, breathing in, all the way in, all the way in again, the double breath, and then breathing out through the mouth. Sigh, groan, moan, hum, let it go all the way out, dropping the shoulders, shaking it off, giving yourself permission to relax, to release, and then bring yourself back. And now breathe in through your nose and out through your nose, in through your nose and out through your nose, and then just relax. So the next breath, Patrick would call this many short breath holds. I call this a nose pinch exercise. That's the way that I remember it. This is an emergency exercise. This is designed to get the body's chemistry back into balance. If you're experiencing high levels of anxiety, even all the way up to kind of panic attacks, then one of the first things we need to do is take the body's chemistry back into balance. Like I say, I'm not going to go too much into this, but really we need a balance between oxygen, the oxygen that you breathe in, and the carbon dioxide that's going to release within the body. When you are breathing too much, for instance, like the Wim Hof method, when you're breathing out through your mouth fast, you're basically pushing out as quick as you can. That breathes off too much carbon dioxide, and the body, for so many different reasons, needs carbon dioxide present within the system. So this first exercise will bring the body's chemistry back into balance. It's going to take you to a place very, very quickly where you start to regain control. This is ideal for panic attacks. This is ideal and custom made for high levels of anxiety. And it's very, very simple. It takes a couple of minutes. It's a great warm-up exercise. This is the way that I start my day every single day. And it's also the way that I finish my day every single day. To kind of wind it up in the beginning, the start of the day to get me going, and to, give myself the gift on so many different levels in terms of what's happening within my body. And then at the end of the day, to leave the day behind, to prepare for sleep, I finish with this every single day. Even when I'm lying in bed, if I forgot to do it before I go to bed, I'll lie in bed just before I drift off to sleep, and I take myself through this process. So very, very simple. We're going to breathe in through the nose and out through your nose. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose all the way out. When you breathe out all the way out, simply pinch and hold your nose when the breath has been fully exhaled, and you pinch and hold the nose for 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. In through the nose and out through the nose all the way out. Once you reach the bottom again, pinch and hold the nose for 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. We do this 5 times. This is number 3. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose all the way out. Pinch and hold the nose when you reach the bottom. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. In through the nose and out through the nose all the way out. 5 seconds again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, in through the nose and out through the nose all the way out. Final time, pinch and hold the nose, 5 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just relax. Now there's so many good things going on there within the body, within the chemistry within the body, bringing the body's chemistry back into balance, bringing back the balance between oxygen and carbon dioxide, very, very important. You should already start to feel better. You can do that exercise for as long as you like. Normally 5 minutes is more than enough. If you're still feeling anxious at this point, I would move on to the next part of exercise, which really kind of, when you see it, it reminds you of, when you back in the day, you used to hear about people having panic attacks and they would breathe into a brown paper bag. And the reason they do that is because they breathe out the carbon dioxide and you're trying to breathe in as much carbon dioxide as possible. The challenge with that is there's not any oxygen getting in, and you can only really manage that for 4 or 5 breaths before it becomes too much. So the way to do that, the way I learned from Patrick McKeown, is very, very simple. It's called breathing into cupped hands. So you bring your hands up, and there's going to be some kind of small gaps within your fingers, and that's going to allow enough oxygen to come in, and at the same time the oxygen that the carbon dioxide you're breathing out through your nose, this is all going to be nasal breathing. That's going to obviously pull within your hands, so there's a wee bit of oxygen coming in, but at the same time you're breathing back in the majority of carbon dioxide, and again, so beneficial in so many different ways. Don't be too concerned with the science just now. I would very much go on how it feels when you try this. And again, this should help to allow you to find relief and get back to that place of well-being, even more so than the mini short breath holds or the nose pinch exercise. So, physiological sigh, 2 or 3 times. Nose pinch exercise, you do 5 times, and then straight into breathing through cupped hands. So with this one, again, it's depending on how high the anxiety is, what your level of anxiety is. Again, you've just got to trust yourself with the feelings. How does it feel? If it feels like too much, you simply back off. And the idea is to basically bring your hands up, breathe into cupped hands. You're going to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. And for this, I would be breathing in for probably 3 seconds and then out for 3 seconds. And then if you feel comfortable, if it feels okay, then I would, the idea is to make the breath kind of quiet, make it soft, make it gentle, make it easy, make it nice and light. If that feels like too much, at any time, if it becomes, too much for you, because if you overdo this, if you overbreathe with this, then it can put you into an even higher level of stress and anxiety, and it can cause panic attacks. You need to be very, very careful with this. And as always, trust your feelings, trust your guidance system as to how it's making you feel, and then you can either choose to, do more or to back off. But again, once you get this practice, once you start to breathe in the carbon dioxide, it's going to get the chemistry within the body. It's going to help, the oxygen delivery to the brain, and it's going to help to de-escalate that anxiety even more. So you bring your hands up. You're going to breathe in through your nose and out through your nose. Breathing in for 3, so breathing in, 2, 3, breathing out, 2, 3. In, 2, 3, breathing out, 2, 3. In, 2, 3, out, 2, 3. In, 2, 3, out, 2, 3. Breathing in, 2, 3, out, 2, 3. And again, you can keep that going for as long as you feel comfortable. Take your hands away. Feel what's going on within your body. And now at this point, thanks to those previous exercises, particularly the second exercise, the mini short breath holds or the nose pinch exercise, what you'll find is your nasal passage has opened up, your chemistry's got back into balance, you're starting to feel in a much better place. And then at that point, just to breathe, Patrick would call it light, slow and deep. So light, you change the chemistry, deep, you change the biomechanics, and then simply by slowing it down, that's the foundations, that's the way that you breathe with correct form and function. That's how we are supposed to breathe as human beings, scientifically proven. There's no room for, what anybody else says or what anybody else thinks. That's the scientific evidence of how it works, how it goes together. And it's very, very simple. In through the nose and out through the nose. If you're feeling okay with it, again, depending on where you're at, I would breathe in for 4 seconds and then out for 4 seconds. You want to be taking it down into your diaphragm. So the chest ideally wants to remain quiet. When you breathe in through the mouth, you breathe in through the mouth, it opens up, and you breathe into the top areas of your lungs, so the top kind of branches of your lungs. And when you breathe in through your nose, that activates the parasympathetic nervous system. And then when you take it down into your belly, the way that a baby breathes, the way that we used to breathe before stress got in the way, then you're giving the body exactly what it needs, to take in, this life-giving breath, the inspiration, the oxygen that comes in, that basically enables you to do every single thing that you require in this life. That's why we breathe. So to do it properly with correct form and function, every single cell, every single area of your body, all of the systems are going to benefit in so many different ways. And it's very, very simple. In through your nose, we're going to breathe in for 4 and out for 4. So on my count, breathing in, 2, 3, 4, letting go, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4, letting go, 2, 3, 4. In through the nose, 2, 3, 4. Always out through the nose, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4. Letting go, 2, 3, 4. Keep breathing in your own time. Now start to make it quiet so you can hardly even hear it, so you can hardly even feel it. And then as you breathe out, the out breath is all about letting go any stress, any tension, any worries, any fears, letting go all the way out and actually physically see it leaving the body. Stale, stagnant, tired energy. out through any individual cell. I like to visualise opening up my hands, opening up my feet, opening up the top of my head. Any areas that I'm feeling stress, I simply breathe through that area and just allow it to alleviate and basically leave my system, letting it go. And again, this type of breathwork you can do at any time. You can do it when you're driving your car, you can do it just before you go to sleep at night time, you can do it before you exercise, you can do it when you're at your work, when you're walking the dog. Functional breathing you can do at any point at all. Hyperventilation, strong breath holds is very, very easy to black out. Again, I know this through experience. So light, slow and deep functional breathing, this is something you can do at all times. And by doing this type of breath work, what you're constantly doing is bringing your body back into balance, getting it back into homeostasis, getting it back into coherence, which is the way that it should be for all of us. The light breath is very, very significant. When you breathe nice and quiet, when you feel eventually as if you would like to breathe a wee bit more, you take it down so much and take it so slow that it feels almost a wee bit uncomfortable. That's where the training would lead on to. What that does is it brings you from the outside world and it takes you back on the inside. When I discovered this, it was a realisation for me that it was a bridge, back to the inside, from the outside world, from your head and overthinking and all of the wonderful things that this brilliant mind of ours does, and the ability to kind of slow that down, the ability to change your point of attention and take it from your head and take it from your thinkingness and then switch that off and eventually hopefully stop. And then get back inside yourself, get back inside your feelings, get back inside your emotions. That's the plan with all of this. This is why mindfulness doesn't really work, because if you've got an overactive mind and you're breathing in the wrong way, then good luck. Meditation doesn't work, mindfulness doesn't work, because you're still in that constant state of stress, that the balance is still out of whack within your brain. The brain cell excitability, as Patrick called it, is too much. You've got chaos within the head, and one of the most important things is to bring the brain back into coherence. And then if you can start to tie that into coherence with the rest of your body, and particularly your heart, then don't be surprised if things start to get better very, very quickly. A great thing for me is when I'm doing this is I change my attention, and many, many years ago I learned how do I stop my mind, especially during the night when I'd wake up during the night. How can I get myself back to sleep? When I'm waking up, I'd maybe work the next day, I was maybe under stress, and it took me probably 20 years to work this out. But one of the things that I teach my students now is the very, very simple, to stop the thoughts. How do you stop the thoughts? How do you stop the mind? And very simply for me, I say simple, it took me the long enough time to get it, but very simply for me, it was to stop thinking in words, which simply means to start thinking in feelings. So you think about something that's maybe went wrong or something that's going to cause you some sort of distress, and then the unconscious mind and the conscious mind then goes and tries to work out ways they're going to have to be able to deal with it. So simply by stopping that link from happening, stopping that process from taking place right from the very beginning, I realised that if I just simply stop thinking in words and switch to thinking in feelings, and then it stopped the questions, which in turn stopped the kind of search for the answers or the solutions. And that's dead simple. You just simply feel. For me, I feel how much I love my daughter, how much I love my son, how much I love my wife. I feel how grateful I am for my dog who's lying beside me. And I started going into my feelings as opposed to in my head. And then when you're in your feelings, if you simply just lie in bed and you do this type of breath work with some intentional relaxation, lying on your back, and then you can start to bring body awareness into different parts of your body. A great thing I like to do is breathe into different parts of my body. So if I'm feeling dis-ease within my stomach, or I'm feeling overwhelmed in my chest, then I'll literally imagine this life-giving breath as I breathe in through my nose and out through my nose. I'll feel it coming into these areas that's been affected by chronic stress or inflammation or tension. And then as I breathe out, the out breath is all about letting it go. As I breathe out, I'll see the cells opening up, and I'll breathe out the waste, the tension, the frustration, the whatever it is, the negative emotions, whatever it is that I'm carrying within those different spaces. I'll literally see it leaving the body, out through the soles of my feet, out through the backs of the knees, out through the tailbone, out through the backs of my eyes, out through the back of my neck, and then I really see it going into, back into, whether it's back into the earth, back into Mother Nature, back into, consciousness, back into the field. And I see it, I smell it, I feel what it smells like, and then I see it as a different colour. And it's amazing the power of the imagination, the power of your mind, when you feel as if you're actually starting to let this stuff go, the difference that it'll make to your physicality and how you feel. So intentional breath work, I would call that breathing with intention, once you actually understand how it goes together, and then just some basic relaxation. Bring your awareness into scanning your body. Everybody's different, so what is it specifically that's causing you like dis-ease? and then just putting your awareness on that part of your body, and then simply breathing in this life force, allowing it to come in. The in-breath is the up-regulator, so you're bringing in this inspiration, cleansing, replenishing, repairing, and then as you breathe out, just give yourself permission just to let it all go. And that's the process, dead simple. The breath is so important, especially in these times. It's the one way we can actually influence the autonomic nervous system consciously, so just by changing your breath, by realising and learning how it goes together, by realising what you're doing to yourself, by realising you're out of whack with the power of your awareness, then just by learning to breathe the correct form and function and doing these simple tools and techniques, then everything changes very, very quickly. Sleep is so important with this. We need to get sleeping properly. We need to get to that place where you're actually resting and recovering. All the stuff I spoke about before, what you're doing to yourself with diet, what you're doing to yourself with the environment, the type of food that you're eating, you're consuming, the type of drinks that you're drinking. Don't be too surprised if you're rattling 2 or 3 large, double, triple coffees a day, and then you're suffering from a wee bit of anxiety. So at that point, it becomes a choice as to what you're going to do about it. So there you go. That's the first light bite, overcoming anxiety. I hope this has helped you. I send my best to you and yours. Take it easy. God bless. Peace out, and bye for now.